Hi and welcome to this episode of Game Creation, and today we're hopefully going to be removing rows. Now that is an incredibly complicated thing to do, and one that is going to take a lot of thought and experimentation, because yes, removing the row is not that difficult, but shifting all the ones above it down is going to be a bit of a nightmare. And we've got this relationship between the array and the graphic objects and stuff that is going to be one that I'm probably going to make quite a few mistakes, so hopefully I won't. The first thing we've got to do is I've realised that on the board I've created 4 different sprites and there's no reason for it. It only needs one. So we're going to correct that straight away because that's going to make this a lot harder having 4 different ones. So let's get started. So I've opened up the same project as we've been using throughout this whole project, and I'm going to start by sorting this out because we've got other board 1, other board 2 and other board 3 which we just don't need, but this is going to make things really complicated. So what I want to do is I want to copy this and paste it in here. Copy this, Control C, paste it in here, Control V, and copy this and paste it in here. Remove these ones just by dragging from an empty one to them, and then I want to double click in here. Now this is going to be a lot easier to do it from here because I don't want to create the other 1, other 2, other 3. I don't want to do that, so I'm just going to delete those. Then I want to do this, the main board, 3 more times. So I'm going to press Control C, Control V, Control V, Control V, and I'm just going to have them create each one above where I've set the parameters, because when you create them and then you do stuff to them, it applies to the one that's just been created. So it will create that one, do all that stuff, create that one, then do all that stuff, then create that one, do all that stuff, create that one, do all that stuff, if that makes any sense. Could drag the activation of groups to the bottom, so I think we need to do that afterwards. And hopefully this will work just as it did before. Fingers crossed. So we've got to wait the 2 hours for this to reach the bottom, and that should work perfectly. And it does not. That's always the way. And I think I know why. Yeah. I think you can't create multiple objects and then set those multiple objects within the same thing. I don't think it works that way. So we might need to have a short fast loop first to create those things. That's not going to be a problem. So fast loop, create board. Well, I need some proper naming convention. And we're only going to do the loop once. Copy that. And so insert new event on loop. And what I'm going to do is just I'm going to drag this in here, drag this in here, and remove them from this one. Copy this 4 times, and I just need to do a bit of deleting. Which is okay. So I'm just making sure I delete the right ones. Whoops. That's my typical clicking on the wrong one. Okay. These creations are actually the same, so it doesn't matter about those. Let's do the final one. That should work nicely. Let's check that this. So I want, just for brevity, start the loop there. So that's when I want to do. Like the other ones won't fire until the pointer hits the group, and that should work now. It should really do it on upon creation, but sometimes they need a separate line, and that works perfectly. Let's just stack this a little bit, test that it works, and that works fine. And so now we're just doing it with a single piece, and in case I've used these pieces elsewhere, what I do is just click on them and just check that I've not used them elsewhere, because what Clickteam will do is just search for everywhere in the code that I've used that piece and I haven't used it anywhere else, which is brilliant. So I'll go back here and just check these are the right ones. Other board one, yeah. We don't want 1, 2 and 3, we don't want those. Brilliant. And the fact that Clickteam hasn't come up with a prompt saying, are you sure you want to delete this because you've got stuff in your event and still related to it. If you don't get that prompt, it means that it wasn't used anywhere. So for an example, if I delete this, or I try to delete this, it just deletes it, it doesn't care. There you go. Right. I think it's because I haven't used it on the left-hand side. So if you delete something that's used on the left-hand side, so as an actual event, then you get the prompt. So there you go. Okay, so that should work nicely. And that's the first hurdle we've overcome, which is good. But because we're basing all of our logic on this array here, we don't actually want to create these pieces individually. We want to create a function that creates all of the pieces all at once, if that makes any kind of logical sense. So this isn't going to help us later on. What we need is a function that removes all the pieces from the board and then creates them straight from the array. So if we remove a row from the array, then that will just be able to redraw the whole thing. Now that's not good for memory back in the old days, but with modern computers, they can absolutely handle that very, very easily, and they can easily, quickly redraw the however many pieces there are, was 180 pieces. It won't be a problem. So we don't want any of these, so I'm just going to deactivate that. So we don't need those, and probably delete it later on. And what we want it to do is create kind of a new way of doing this. So I'm going to just create a new group, and it's going to be called create tiles from array. I've called them pieces, so why don't I try and stay consistent? And on that loop, what we want to do is just remove everything and start again. So I'm going to try and remove all of these. Now to do that, unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't remove them at all. So if I just put in a condition that is absolutely true, and that I've just made up, all the old triple value A's for all these pieces are going to be greater than minus 9999. So if that's true, which it is for all of them, destroy them all. So this first thing to do is just remove all of them. There's smarter ways of doing that, I'm sure, but that's the way I've decided to do it. And what I want to do is I want to create an array that create a loop that goes through all the values of the array and draws the tiles from the array. So to do that, what I'm going to do is do a fast loop, and I'm going to start a loop, and it's going to be array, and I normally put another word in, so create from array, just in case I've used this loop before. I try and put something that's related to this specific one, and we're going to do this for each of the kind of rows, and there's 18 rows. Drag that in and rename that. And this time, I'm just going to drag this in because it's going to be for each column in the array, and there's 10 of those. Okay, so we're just looping through the array, and what we want to do is we want to see if there should be a tile there, so insert one there, create two general values, and we're just peeking into the array for the given index, so that's going to be the x, that's how far across it is, and this is going to be the y, and the z index is 0 for all of these. So we want to see if it's greater than 0, because 0 means that there just isn't a tile there. If it's greater than 0, we'll need to create one. So I've saved this from earlier, drag this in, create it. We need to set all the values for it. So, and if I double click, it might be easier just to cycle through these. So this isn't going to be from this part anymore, it's just going to be from the, and I need to do the fast loop. So the loop index of the create from x, if I press the right button, let's just copy that, and this is from the y. And this is just going to be from the x, and this is going to be from the y. Now the direction, if I come out of this, the direction will be the value of this. So I've just copied that, and the direction is the value of that, -1. Should it be -1? I think it's just the value of that. We'll have to see. Right, so this time it's going to redraw all of them. So it's just a different way of doing it. This is kind of the moment of truth right here. And I'm just keeping an eye on the direction that it is. Like the current sprite that we're using for it shouldn't change. And it has. Because the directions, yeah, okay. So we did need that -1. Okay. Because the direction's 0 based, but we've numbered it 1 based. So 1 is the first sprite. And this should work nicely here. So what it's doing now is it's just drawing the whole board each time. So we know that if the array's right, then the graphics will be right. So we only have to worry about making sure the array is correct. And let's just try one more. And I really need to get that down button working. Frantically pressing down, but it's not being coded. That's the thing about creating your own games, is that if you don't code it, it's not going to happen. Let's just change the direction, just test this is working nicely, which I think it is. Perfect. Okay. Now I think that is enough for today, and we're going to have to wait for New Year's Day tomorrow to finish off being able to remove the row. So a little bit more work than I anticipated for today, but I don't want this to be a super long video like some of them were last week. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow to actually remove the row. Very exciting. See you then. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you want to see more from us, please click subscribe. We release videos every single weekday at 7 PM UK time. Thank you.